Welcome to the Gyrl Podcast, the show where purpose meets inspiration. Each week, I sit down with incredible individuals who open up about their real life journeys, the wins, the setbacks, and the lessons in between. Whether you're navigating career moves, entrepreneurship, or personal growth, you're in the right place. I'm Kyra Mitchell-Lewis, your host, and I'm glad you're here. Let's glow up together. Welcome back to the Gyrl Podcast. Blah. All right, I am so excited to welcome Julie to the show. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you for having me, Kyra. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. I'm glad you're here. Well, why don't we get started by having you tell our audience listening or watching who you are and what you do?
I'm Julie Roth. I am a brand strategist and copywriter, and I help businesses big and small articulate their why in words. So I work with founders, I work with teams, agencies to build foundational frameworks for brands and products that create hopefully bottom line impact for years to come.
Awesome. All right. So definitely excited to have this conversation with you. Love all things brand. I think it's so important that people understand like storytelling and being able to have that compelling message that sets their business apart, even when you are from a small business to large corporations. I love it because as anybody who listens who knows that in my everyday life, I work in marketing. So this is just like what I get to do all day. But I do want to start before you start giving the goods on, how people can build up brand strategy. Let's talk about you. This is actually a second career for you. You
Yes.
started as, which I think is relatively very, it's a great transition. You were a teacher
Yes.
and
I was a high
now
school English teacher.
yes. So let's talk about that. What brought that transition on for you?
Okay, I thought about this previously and I was like, "Ooh, this is gonna be a very long story. I'm gonna try to keep semi-short." But I'm from Chicago originally, from Highland Park, Illinois, and I began my career as a Chicago public school teacher in high school English. And when I was around 25, I was tenured. I had a super steady job. I got, pretty quickly after college. I loved interacting with the students, but I just started to look around and realize I think this might not be my forever career. And so I spent a long time thinking about what I would do, what my choices are. And so that summer I made at the time was a very big decision for me, which was to not be a summer school teacher and take the summer off. I had never done that. And so my dad and I packed on my car. I knew LA was a place I wanted to try. And so my dad and I packed on my car. We together drove across the country and I put him on a plane and he went home and I was there with my car and enough savings to try and figure things out and see if the summer was going to amount to anything. And I had a job in an apartment in 3 weeks. And so it was something that I had to sit back and think, "Oh, maybe something is lining up. I don't know what that is." And so I like talked to everybody I knew and everybody they knew, to try and figure that out. So I visited a few schools. Like there are some people who were kind enough to tour me around schools, and maybe I'd want to like change my teaching license to California. And I thought, no, like I just don't think this is right. And so I started working retail actually at Lululemon. This was so long ago. Oh my goodness. Um, and so what happened was I talked to a couple of folks about using my English degree for something else. And so I had more kind people give me a chance in copywriting. And so this was at the time theatrical ad agencies. And so they would hand me a script to a movie that was coming out, and I would write like 50 taglines for it. And so it was fun. They were like paying me beans, which was deserved. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just kind of winging it. And they were, letting me sort of figure it out as like an added piece to the campaign. And so somebody eventually pulled me aside, a mentor, really became a mentor of mine and said, if you really are interested in this, you're going to have to go back to portfolio school. Like you're going to have to take some classes and understand what the heck you're doing. And he was very, very right. And so I went to Art Center in Pasadena because people probably know they have like an incredible program, but they also have continuing ed. And so I was that adult taking continuing ed night classes there in advertising. And my teacher was the former dean of advertising for like 30 years. He became another one of my mentors. And as soon as I stepped into that classroom, I was like, this is my thing. I can just feel this is my thing. And so while I was working other jobs, I was taking classes at night to understand how to think when it comes to advertising, which, as you know, is
Mhm,
like a different way of thinking when you have to come up with ideas and
mhm.
be able to sell them out and really think them through.
Yeah.
And does this idea have legs? Like, can it really stand on its own for a long-term campaign? All these kinds of things. And so eventually I found myself with the opportunity to work at a brand agency after I'd worked in-house. I mean, this is like this is like a decade story. But like plus. And so I was working in gaming at the time, which was wonderful. I worked in-house at 2 different gaming houses and then as a copywriter. And then I had the opportunity to work at a branding agency, which was spectacular. And they hired me as a copywriter and then gave me the opportunities to start to flex my muscles in strategy. And so it was there that I was able to learn really what a brand strategy is, what it means, how it can really change the course of a business or keep it on track and help
Mhm.
it grow and really flourish. And so I've been able to work in copywriting as traditional advertising and also brand strategy, which has been a lot, but amazing.
Awesome. Okay, so a couple of things. First of all, how cute is it that you put your dad on a plane? I love it. We drove across country and then I put him on a plane. I think it's so adorable. The second thing is, what did you do? How did you combat the fear? Like, were there moments like as you were driving across country and getting ready to start, trying to figure out what I want to do next? Did you ever have like how'd you talk down self-doubt or fear? What did you speak to yourself in order for you to like keep pushing and not go into teaching because that would be like the easy thing for you to do?
How many times did I have to combat this? Either like I lost count probably.
Mhm.
Um, but again, back to my dad, he's a good one. Um, he Before I had made this when I was still back in Chicago, he gave me this book, and this is so corny because it's like the most traditional book ever, but Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. I don't know if you've ever heard of
Mhm.
this book, but it's
Mhm.
like really well known. And it was written in sort of the 1920s, I think. And you can tell that it was written in the 1920s just by the dialect of everything. But it started to open my eyes to the fact that, I was going for so long. And I think making decisions based on what I thought was good or what I thought I maybe wanted or what maybe other people thought that I should be doing. And so that book started to open my eyes to the reality that, oh, I can choose this. Like, I don't have to be like a ping pong ball. I can really choose a life for myself. And so it started with that like little seed where I was like, I think this is right on. Like, I think this is like an inflection point for me in my life. I was 25. That's kind of common, like the quarter life crisis, people call it, right? Where you start to like 25, 26, 27, you start to sort of get this almost second adulthood, I would call it. And I was like right in that moment in my life. And so I think what helped me combat that fear after I kind of knew that seed was there was I was stubborn. Like, there were many times where I blew through my savings. I barely had enough to, like, pay my rent and everything. I was, like, not even able to buy myself a sweater, like, literally. And so, I was like, "I can't give up now," kind of thing. I was like
Mhm.
I was I was stubborn enough and motivated enough that I thought, There's no way I can give up. I have to keep this going or else I will feel like I'm a
Mhm.
failure." I hate to say that because we're like failure is like kind of a dirty word, but yeah, there were many times where I almost came back to Chicago, which would have been fine. And like I have a super supportive network of family and friends, but it was just something that I had to do for myself.
Yeah. And it seems like you knew on the inside that you were being called to do something different. And I
Yes.
think that is one of the things that people a lot of times, because the right thing seems like, oh, this is like stability. This is the thing that feels like I should be doing this. So I love that you kept telling yourself you kept creating a different narrative for yourself versus just doing the thing that everybody thought you should do, but you kept pushing yourself to follow your heart and what you were, what it was telling you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I think I realized that I was putting myself in that box though too.
mm,
Like I think I might have put that on other people like in my mind.
mhm.
Oh, like so and so wants me to do that. No, I was putting those limitations on myself, I think because I was playing it safe for a really
Yeah,
long time.
yeah. And I think that's a very, important thing that you mentioned, because I think when we can be, like, truthful with ourselves about the situation, this, like, things start to open up for us, right? Because if you're just telling yourself, like, imagine how many people out there are probably telling themselves, "Well, it's because my parents want me to do this. My parents think I should do this." And, I mean, it's, like, very apparent that, like, your parents were on board. Your dad was like, "Okay, let's do it. Let's go." And I'm here to be, I'm sure you had a great support, like you said, a great support system back in Chicago. So I think that's pretty cool, to hear your story, and to how you came to this decision, and just you chose you. And I think we can't
So,
yeah, I think we can't say that enough, for people, and I think something that's as listening to Julie, talk about it, and then when you were saying, "Oh, when I was 25," and I was actually, like, remembering, I was like, "What was I doing at 25?" And I was thinking to myself, I was like, "Oh, I was still, sort of, like, coming up in my career, like, in corporate and, working through," and I hadn't gotten to that place yet of, wondering, like, what was next. So I would say that to say to people that, like, it can come at any age, and you at any age can choose you and the thing that fuels you and drives you and the thing that makes your heart sing. Because, like, hearing you even say that and knowing what you do today and hearing the journey that you took, it's like, "Oh, wow." Like, it's like she was always destined for that 'cause of where you started. Like, you already storytelling in a sense in school and what you were teaching. So it's like it was always there inside of you, and you just chose and said yes and brought it out.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I like it. I love that. Alright, so let's talk about, our good old friend brand strategy.
Okay.
Because first, I want you to tell us so for people who may not know, for those who do know, let's just get a refresher, like, on is what is brand strategy and how does it begin to take shape?
Sure. So when it comes to a company, a business, a brand strategy is essentially a foundation from which everything grows. So whether that's identity, like logo, the colors you choose, the type, the design, the illustration, whatever it may be visually, or like the message on your website, your social media, even how you talk about your company, your emails and stuff. So, a brand strategy is the jumping off point of everything because it boils down what you are solving for people, what makes your business special, and really why you exist.
I like that. And I know let okay, let me see how to phrase this. I think it's important because when people hear things like brand strategy, right? And you start to say, like, it's the logo, it's the colors. I think a lot of times people think, oh, that's very easy because this is the name of my company and this is the logo that I want. And these are the colors that I like. But I'd like for you to talk about, like, the the research that goes into, like, how to create a solid like, how to create those elements of a solid brand strategy, and it's not just about things that like you like or whatever. And also too, the importance of bringing in someone who is not you, who can understand, who you can tell them all those things and they can help you craft it. Because I think a lot of times we all think as business owners, I'm using myself. I'm using myself as the example. I think we all think as business owners because we love it and it's our thing and it's the thing we're passionate about that we're the best to tell the story.
You often are the best to tell the story, but sometimes it takes other people to sort of be on the outside looking in, so, so you're able to hone in on what that story is. So, like, a brand strategy is a lot of thought and work and investment that you do upfront to get super clear on your why. I say upfront, like, it could be you're doing some sort of refresh or you wanna change lanes or whatever it may be, so that you're not changing your messaging or your logo, let's say, down the road. So it makes your path really clear to where you wanna go, how you're gonna get there, and most importantly, like, how you're going to connect with customers to get there. So that's what people wanna know when they go on a website, they're in the store, whether they realize it or not, they wanna connect with you or your product. So, like, why would they want this on their shelf at home? What does it reflect in their own values or say about them as a person? So, like, I'll give you a couple of examples, like Patagonia. Okay, everyone knows Patagonia. So Patagonia's why is really to protect the environment, to promote sustainable practices. They have very ethical production methods and environmental activism. They're super involved. So if that's something that you value as a person, this is a
Mhm.
company that you're going to feel good about supporting, that you're going to tell your friends about, that you're going to repeat buy. So like that's content you're going to want to seek out and consume. So like not to mention they back it up with incredible product and manufacturing. So this is years and years and years, decades that Patagonia has been
Mhm.
developing this, right? So it's kind of like stacks on top of each other, but they still go back to the core of who they are. So that's like that's a major one I would definitely use as a really good example. So companies like them, they have a North Star. That's the core of their brand strategy. So they're able to articulate their why and it then guides them. Whether it's like making a business decision, making a hiring decision, deciding where you want to show up in stores or not. Then you can like stick to your core and then people can honestly, it makes sense in other people's minds what you're doing. They can say, oh, of course, it's Patagonia. It makes sense, right? So how many companies can you think of or like brands that you even see around your house that you're like, yes, that makes sense to me because cool. And you see a commercial, let's say, and you're like, oh, of course that makes sense for Nike, right? So that's really what a brand strategy does is like it's really clear on that.
Mhm. Yeah, I appreciate that. Um, I I think too, like for some reason, and I love this app, so please no one get mad at me because it's one of my favorite things to look at, watch and stream. But I was just thinking about like that sort of evolution of like Max that Max
Yes.
has gone through, and it's like I remember it a few years ago when it came out, it was HBO Max. And it was like, "Oh, it's HBO Max." And then as they started to expand and got these different partnerships, then it was like, "Oh, it just could be Max." And, like, literally every time, like, the logo would change, the color would change, and the logo, and it was just like, "What are they doing?" And then now, like, right, they're going back to aren't they going back to HBO Max now? And I thought to
Yes.
myself, I was like, "This makes no sense." Now this makes no sense to me because are they not gonna have all these other same partnerships where they were pulling, from, like, Food Network or HGTV, like, all these other, like, networks? And I'm like, "Okay, now I'm confused." Now I don't even really know, like, what Max or HBO Max stands for, like, who are they?
Yeah, and I think this is so topical. This just happened, but they they're having a little bit of an identity crisis. At least it seems like that from the outside looking in, right? And so I'm sure they have a fabulous brand strategy, but you do have to stick to it, you know?
Right.
So, however, like it's such a that example, like from us as consumers, it's like, what are they doing? But probably what they're dealing with is partners like you said, partnerships
Mhm.
and contracts and, you know,
Yeah.
forecasting, and so they're a huge company, but still, yes, they
Yeah.
but
So
however, though, they have approached it with such a good they approached it really, really well with the memes, and they've
true.
been
Yeah.
owning up, right? They've been if you've seen that around,
Yeah.
they've been owning up to the fact that they're like, "Just kidding, we're HBO Max again." So, gotta
Right.
hand it yeah, you have to hand it to them, that they're a real
I'll
sense of humor.
I'll give that to them, but and I think, like, when we look at something like that, you think about it, right? They are a huge corporation, right? And they have the means to, invest the money into, like, "Oh, okay, well, not this time, just kidding, da, da, da." But then you think about, like, think about, like, smaller businesses who are, really trying to build a brand from the ground up, and this is why what Julie is saying is so important because you don't want to have to change your logo like down the road. You want to have a solid foundation from the start because it's expensive to do all those things. And when you are constantly having to change things and you're just having to change like logos on websites or just on collateral and things of that nature, it's a lot. Like it's a lot, so it's very important to invest from the beginning. Now, tell me this. I'm gonna just throw another question out because I was talking to one of my friends who's a creative director and he has his own business, and he essentially helps people from the visual side of building their brand identity. And one of the things he mentioned to me, he was like, one of the things that's really so hard right now is, everybody using like AI. Everybody just go into AI to create logos and they have these sort of like brand identity in a box. You just pay some money and then here's your brand identity. And he was like, and I think like I just don't get it because people are missing like the strategy of it. People are missing the sort of the research, the building of the customer, right? The building, understanding who the customer is, the building of like a persona of like who they are trying to like, attract. Now, do you find in your space and in your work that, you sort of run into people who have gone to like AI and just like whipped up something and then maybe come to you after they realize like, "Oh, okay, well, I don't know if that was the right approach."
I haven't really the most I have seen well, first of all, if someone uses ChatGPT, I can tell. If it comes to, like, an email or, like, a list or something like that, I can kinda tell. Maybe that's
Mhm.
because I was an English teacher, I don't know, but, I mean, when it comes to AI, and that's a fair point because it's a huge piece of the conversation right now, especially when it comes to creative pursuits and creative craft. I
Mhm.
will say AI doesn't have a heart or a soul, and it never will. So, the thing that I think people get freaked out about AI, and in some cases for good reason, like, I do understand that we're gonna have to evolve as a
Mhm.
society, think about how we're gonna implement this and make sure that people have careers and jobs, obviously, but at the same time, I would, like, implore people to think about the fact that you tell AI what to do, it doesn't come up with stuff on its own, if that makes sense. Like, you are
Right.
guiding you are the human touch, you are the human
Mhm.
element of that, so, for people who I would say, like, think however, people who think that they can just sort of say, "Hey, I need a brand identity for my new sunglasses company," You could. You could essentially do that, but I also learned in advertising school that most advertising is bad. If you think
Mhm.
about it, right? Like, how many local like, I hate to call out public access or local TV, but, like, how many ads have you come across where you're like, "That was terrible," or, "What did they mean by that?" or, "I don't get it. I don't get the joke," or, "That was way over anyone's head. Who would have said" So it's like, I think of AI in the same sort of way. It's like, sure, you could use it, but I wouldn't necessarily expect to get what you're
Mhm.
hoping out of it because you're not really investing that time and, like, again, that heart and soul that's gonna get you to connect with other humans.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I definitely think that that's very fair. I was actually having this, conversation with my copywriter today, and we were talking about it, and we were talking about in terms of, like, people using it and, like you said, it's like you're the one that's feeding it. You're essentially creating the creative brief and telling it, like giving it all the information and saying, "Hey, do this thing." And so it's been a sort of ongoing conversation in my company, and now we're at this place where we're trying to test it to like see what we can do with it. But obviously, it's not going to take the place of our writer because, the writer is like you said, it's the heart, he's the heart and the soul of the brand. Like he understands it, he can speak to it. I mean, he wrote the voice and tone, like all those things. And I told him, I said, yeah, I said, I've come into contact with some people who I do some freelance work for, and they have used it. They have this person has used it, and I said, and I can tell, like, the prompt that they gave was just pretty much like, "I need this program." And they didn't feed any of the things, and so sort of to make so when we met and they were like they were like, "Oh, yeah, like, I just dropped it into." It was funny because he called it Chatty Cathy, and I was like, "Wow, that's interesting. Chatty Cathy, huh? Not just Chat GPT." So I sort of did an experiment just to show, like, the difference. I think, if you're using it's a very big difference when people who are in the industry and marketing use it because we sorta know how to prompt it. Like, and most times when marketing people do it, they've already written it. Like, it's already, like, written. You're just trying to see if it, like, comes up with something different from what you said. And it's so that's what my copywriter said. He was like, "Yeah, I do the same thing. Sometimes I'll write a whole thing and then I'll just feed it in there just to see like what's it gonna say." And I said, "Yeah," and I said, "I think that's like the difference between just like someone who maybe isn't too sure on how to prompt it and it just comes out and feeds this versus, me taking the work that they got from it and then me sort of like looking at, oh, I said, so this like is this like what you want though? Like, is this what you were thinking?" And me sort of refining it and turning it to, like, a real, like, story, and then I said, "Oh, okay, let me feed it over there and see what it comes back with." And at that time, I mean, all it did was just sort of refine some of the points that I made, but it was still the same thing that, like, that I'd written. So so I think it's interesting. I do think as, people in the industry, obviously, we have to be aware of it. And you want to like, if it is gonna make things somewhat efficient for like your business, then fine. But I think like when it's like a whole don't rely on it to build a brand strategy. Don't let it create foundational. Yeah, like it should not be creating foundational. The way I sort of see it is like, I had to go to a episode of SpongeBob here once where SpongeBob and Patrick were using curse words, but they didn't know that they were curse words, and they were calling them sentence enhancers. So, it's almost like it could work as, like, an enhancer to something that you've already, as a human person, built with the heart
Absolutely.
and the yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it has that capability up, sure. And sometimes, like, yeah, if you're stumped and you need, like, just something to, like,
Yeah,
get your wheels turning again, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. But, yeah, ChatGPT or whatever AI program you're thinking of using, it doesn't
Mhm.
have instincts either, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you as a business owner have much more insight and you're able to look into what your customer wants and needs just based on what is landing or not. You know the most,
Mhm,
So
mhm. Can you talk about why it's important to do the research before you try to build that brand strategy?
yeah, sure. I mean, when it comes to building a brand strategy, you really want as many data points as possible. So that can come from competitive research for sure. What are others doing in your category? Um, what's landing for them or not. How can you differentiate in your own category? If so-and-so is doing this, maybe I could come at it from a different angle, let's say. But I would also say brands that are doing interesting things in other spaces too, like we talked about earlier. So ask yourself, why do I like this company? Why do I connect to it? Why am I always like looking forward to their next TikTok or Instagram? Like, what is it about? So if you can kind of take a step back and think about other industries as well and like what you are connecting with, that can be helpful too, and sort of understanding your own business values, I would say. Audience research, if you're able to do it, is, really, really helpful, could be paramount. Even a simple email survey, I would say, for your listeners, like, can be a game changer in understanding your customer, even if you get just a small slice of customers. I would say that's a big one too. And I do a lot of desk research too when it comes to brand strategy, like statistics, surveys, what certain audience segments are thinking about, what they're not, so you can kind of understand that whatever brand strategy you come up with is backed by facts, where you're like,
Mhm.
okay,
Mm.
cool. If this group of people is super stressed out and you think that having water on their desk helps them or something, like something like that, where it's like,
Mhm.
okay, I can really tie back to an insight, to a human truth that I can see happening with other people, and that it's like something that people want, or there's a need there that can fill a gap, let's say, that can be really helpful in backing up a brand strategy to be something that is like very tangible.
Yes. I love that you brought that up, like the filling a gap, solving a problem or a pain point. Like that's like the foundational pieces of it. Like to me, it's most important to get that part and the values, the core values and what you're oh, and another thing you said North Star. I was like, yes, girl. Like those things are way more important to than before you even get to the what are the colors? What's the logo? Like, I think and sometimes I think that's the part people jump over. People jump that part and they go straight to, like, what is the fun part? A lot of people see as, like, creating the visual, part, but really, to me, I love the research, the building part, like, the strategy, that framework part is most like, it's so intriguing because 'cause you're, like, really building something, a foundation that will answer what your target customer is looking for.
Absolutely. Of course the visual is the fun part. Like, I'm a writer and I'm like, yeah, the visual is so fun. Like, for sure. It's really fun. It's a super fun part of the process, but at the same time, like, let's say that you realize that what your customer needs is, or what your customer is feeling is, a need to be calm and serene and will use your product or service to help them de-stress. What if your logo is already fire truck red? So,
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? So if you put the
Yeah.
cart before the horse,
Mhm.
sometimes you can, like you said, cause yourself unfortunately expensive backtracks.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. Julie, can you tell us about a project that you've worked on that you, really, really enjoyed, being a part of?
Yeah, so a project that was recently launched that I did this year was Unwell Hydration, which is an electrolyte drink in collaboration with Alex Cooper from Call Her Daddy and Nestle. And so I had the very good fortune of working with an agency called Reach here in LA, who was amazing. I love this team. They hired me to develop the strategy and the narrative of that product and how we were going to position in the market. And so that was really fun, getting to play with the idea, develop the language. Nestle was into it, and Ms. Cooper and her team were as well. So we were really excited. So the strategy process there was, of course, a huge team effort, because you can imagine, like, Nestle already has
Mhm.
tons of research, tons of that competitive analysis that I was mentioning earlier. So we took what they had to really make the whole idea package for Ms. Cooper and her team as really an extension of her voice. And that's when we came
Mhm.
up with the idea, hydration with benefits, which is, of course, a callback to the product, but also very much the
Right.
content, what's out having to do with relationships. So that was a
Yeah.
fun one.
Okay, so I love that, and thank you for sharing that. I want to just in case if there's somebody out there listening to us right now and they're like, "Julie, I'm inspired by this. I'm a writer. Maybe, this sounds like a transition maybe I could make." Um, what would you say to them?
I mean, call me for sure. Yeah, I have like I'm happy to talk to anyone about this kind of thing because it took, some effort and a definitely some intention. But I would also say, uh, if you want to think about brand strategy, there is a book called Start with Why by Simon Sinek.
Mhm,
It is like the textbook, so to speak,
mhm.
um, about brand strategy and, like, really what it means. He gives some great examples. I think Patagonia is also in there, for instance, and really laying out what it means to have a brand strategy and how to develop one. So, yeah, that's a really good place to start.
Awesome. Love that. Look at see, Julie's here dropping the nuggets for us today. Um, all right. So I know that you worked at an agency as you mentioned, and now you are more on your own. So you're taking like project opportunities, freelance opportunities. So tell us about that shift.
Sure, I mean, it was a combination of, honestly, good timing and, great coaching, really. I was seeing a career coach at this time during this potential transition, and I was kind of feeling like, okay, I want to be involved in different kinds of projects that I haven't been able to tap into yet. 'Cause every agency has their own strategy or idea about like what kinds of clients they want to move toward or take on, what they want to be known for, right? So everybody's different. And so I'm like very much a 9 to 5 girl. I've never been without that. And so with some serious leadership coaching, big shout out to my coach, Lindsay Yellen. She's the absolute best. I was able to kind of move away from that like knee jerk scarcity mindset of I have to have a 9 to 5 or I'll, explode. I was able to feel like, okay, I have the experience and she helped me build up the confidence to strike out on my own and like um, see what it feels like, and so I did that and, hit up everybody, recruiters included. I've had some fabulous recruiters who have really helped develop, my book of work, and so, yeah, I sort of took another leap, but of course, with a safety net, I'm never without, like, some sort of savings and a safety net. That's a big piece of it too, but, yeah, it's been 2 years.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Well, I love that, and, I feel like we've watched, like, this episode has been like we have watched you just grow and grow. I mean, you went from taking this, a major leap to, finding something that worked and something that you found success doing, and then you made another shift, and I think, like, that's really important, because a lot of times sometimes people make the first shift and they're like, "Well, I made the first one, and I think that's enough for me." But I'm excited and glad for you that you have continued to do what's, best for you, to continue to choose you. But I think and I want to shout you out for this because I think it's so important. Coaching, having coaches, having mentors, like that is so important. The investing in yourself, like we know it costs money. Like it does cost money, but it's an investment in yourself to have like an unbiased person who cares about you, who wants to see you do your best and live like your best life. So, kudos to you for that.
Thank you. I mean, I'm very fortunate to have a support system and people who are, in my corner. So yeah, that's a big piece of it.
Mm. All right, so let's talk. People can reach out to you, connect with you. Tell us how they can.
Absolutely. You can go to my website. It is ecc.llc. You can see all my work there, all my latest. And yeah, my email's on there too. So just feel free to hit me up.
Awesome. All right. Well, now we're going to go into three things with Julie. and ask you 3 questions that just helps our audience get to know you a little bit better. I have to tell you, I'm even more intrigued now about this first question, when you said I was typically a 9 to 5 girl. So tell us, how do you start and end the day?
Ooh, I start the day I mean, this is so not surprising. I start the day reading. I have found that even 5 pages of a book of, like, the latest book that I'm reading will get my brain started in a more calm, healthy way before the screen time starts.
Mhm,
Honestly, it's like a game changer for me. I'm much better also throughout the day if I have a schedule, so oftentimes I will, like, read a few pages, open my planner. I'm a paper girl. Open my
mhm,
planner, and just sort of set my day around whether it's, like, a workout, a meeting, heads down, writing time, whatever it may be, like, talking with clients, whatever. Having that
mhm,
anchor really helps my mind organize itself. So those 2 things are big for me.
mhm, mhm. And how do you end the day?
Oh, yes, how do I end the day? I end the day usually chilling with my husband, with my dog. We're probably watching a movie and then again reading. On my best days, I like have a book open to ramp up and also to unwind. A book for me is like a sleeping pill. If I read 5, 10 pages, I'm like out. So yeah, it's reading is helpful.
Awesome, I like that. All right, and the second question is, what's a goal or intention you've set for yourself this year?
Well, this is from last year, but I've carried this over into this year as well, which is just spend time with people I love the most. So having this, I guess you could call it freedom. Though when I'm booked, I'm busy. But
Mhm,
if that means getting on a plane because I live far away from home, of course, or like planning
mhm.
that trip, I really try to just say yes and connect with my friends and family. Um,
Awesome.
Big one.
And have you been doing that this year?
I have been doing that. I just got home from Chicago, my nieces and, my family, so, yeah.
Awesome. I love it. All right, and the last question, where are you currently finding inspiration?
I've been finding a lot of inspiration on Substack lately. I am very into fashion and style and art, of course, clever writing, and so I have subscribed to quite a few newsletters, and I think if you can find ones that you like and you look forward to, it's fun in there. I like it in there.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, awesome. Well, Julie, I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to share with the community. And I'm going to ask you one final question before I let you go today. And that is, what are 3 things you would like the audience to take away from our conversation today?
Um The first thing I would say is trust your gut, right? This is a huge piece of our conversation today. I would say trust your gut, and or have a sounding board that you trust. Another thing is be thoughtful about your brand or business and don't rush because you'll get there. Like the answers will come. And even if you already have your businesses up and running, people are buying, customers are asking, you can work a little bit of your time into being really thoughtful about it. It's never too late to really step back and think about your business. Yeah. Oh, that's 2
Awesome.
things. 3 things, take away from our conversation today. Listen to Kyra's podcast.
Oh, look at that. I love it. Okay. I co-sign that. Well, awesome, Julie. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all knowledge with us. And again, like congratulations on everything. Like your journey is inspiring and has been great to like have you here today.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here. Thanks.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's just thank Julie again for sharing with us today. Lots of great nuggets there. So, if you're thinking about building a new company, or if you already have your company and you're thinking about just how to refine how you're telling your story, how to build that brand of yours. Maybe if you didn't do it, I guess maybe you didn't build the foundation or framework from the start. You can always take a step back, and you can do that. you can always reach out to people like Julie to help you do that. As somebody like we talked about, as somebody who works in marketing, somebody who has worked with brands and growing brands and telling brand stories, it's so important to like really have that foundation from the beginning to understand your customer, what they want, what they need, what's important to them. How are you filling the gap? How are you like solving a pain point? Obviously, you can tell this is what I do every day because I'm like super excited and was really looking forward to talking to Julie. So, if you want to learn more about Julie, make sure you check out the link in the show notes. All right, if you want to learn more about Glow Up Girl, you can visit our site at glowupgirl.com. If you love this podcast, make sure you sign up for our newsletter to access more insights, tools, and resources to help you elevate. If you are new here, I want to say welcome. I hope you will come back again. If you've been a member of this community, thank you as always for your support. Thank you for dropping in, taking time out of your day to listen. All right, if you haven't checked us out on YouTube and you're listening to the audio of this and you're thinking, oh, I'd like to see the conversation, you can head over to our page. We are at Glow Up Girl. You go there, make sure you subscribe, leave us a comment, all those things. If you're on a platform, you can rate or review us. It would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. Thank you in advance. And if you share any of our social content, make sure you tag us. We'd love to see that. All right. If you're someone who is thinking you'd like to be a guest on the show, you can head over to glowupgirl.com and you can click on our podcast and be a guest link, and you can actually sign up there. Submit your information. Also, if you want to send an email, you can do that to hello@glowupgirl.com. Or you can send a DM on Instagram. Man, this has been a week. I have to tell you. I mean, I feel like I am like swimming in words tonight, so I apologize. I apologize. It's been a long week, and it's actually secrets out. We're recording on a Wednesday evening, so yeah, it's been a doozy. But we are here. We are at the end. We are wrapped. So thank you again so much for taking time out of your day, wherever you may be in the world. So until next time, stay focused, fab, and glow up. Take care, everyone.